In the United States, a single incident has once again pulled national attention toward one of the country's most complex and emotionally charged topics: immigration, security, and the long shadow of America's longest war. It began with a shooting that involved a member of the National Guard, an event that on its own would already trigger headlines, investigations, and intense scrutiny. But what elevated the moment even further was the report that the suspect was an Afghan immigrant who had entered the United States during the massive evacuation after the fall of Kabul in 2021. And with that detail, a new wave of political discussion began. Former President Donald Trump called for a full review of Afghan immigrants brought into the country during the evacuation effort, a request that instantly drew reaction across agencies, communities, and the broader national debate. The demand was direct to reassess vetting procedures, background checks, and the systems that allowed tens of thousands of Afghans to enter the United States under emergency circumstances. But to understand why this call resonated so widely, we need to step back. The withdrawal from Afghanistan was one of the most intense airlifts in modern U.S. history. Thousands of families, translators, workers, and individuals who had assisted American forces were flown out with little time, little stability, and almost no margin for error. Many arrived under humanitarian parole, a status created for situations exactly like this one: chaotic, urgent, unpredictable. And yet, whenever a large-scale evacuation occurs, questions inevitably follow. Who was vetted? How thoroughly were records checked? What systems were used when everything was collapsing in real time? These questions existed before, but after the National Guard shooting, they returned with far more force. As news spread, law enforcement examined the suspect's background. Agencies reviewed available documents, entry records, and the process that brought him into the country. Meanwhile, communities across the U.S., including Afghan refugee groups, watched with heavy attention, aware that one incident could influence public perception of thousands. As the review call gains attention, federal agencies prepare for weeks of documentation, evaluation, and internal discussion. Nothing changes overnight. But in policy, even the suggestion of a review is enough to reshape dialogue, influence narratives, and reopen unresolved discussions about America's role after the Afghan war. The story is not simply about one shooting. It is about the fragile intersection of national security, human displacement, military partnership, and the long aftershocks of a conflict that spanned 20 years. It is about the people who fled a collapsing nation, the soldiers who served beside them, the communities who welcomed them, and the systems now being questioned once again as the investigation continues. And as political pressure builds, one theme emerges with clarity. When wars end, their consequences do not. They echo through borders, through policies, through the lives of those who fought and those who fled. And now the United States stands at another moment of reflection, as it must decide what this incident means, what must be examined, and how the nation will move forward. For now, the country waits, officials analyze, communities brace, and the conversation, complex, emotional, and deeply human, continues.